Again, referring back to the title, a couple words stick out other than AI, right? There's profit and there's scale. So, Dror, I'll pose this question to you first, and a variation of it to you, Nick. As a founder of a company, I think you mentioned about the Inforce versus the new business, right? And I think Adidas bread and butter started in the Inforce stage. So from a founder's perspective, why did you want to hone in on this? Because I'm sure it has to do with profits. I'm sure it has to do with scale on the Inforce stage. And Nick, a similar question to you, follow up after Dror speaks. Being in the industry for so long, do you see that the potential is on that side of the value chain versus the new business?
First and foremost, because I was naive. I was thinking it's makes so much sense and so obvious that if customers end up buying 9 products from 8 carriers, why don't they buy 9 products from 2 carriers? If the carrier would be in front of them, they'll just buy more from them. So I understand that for that, you have to have the data and understand when you need to have a retention opportunity versus an upsell opportunity and put them on the right journey and this and that. But when we started, it just made so much sense. It was almost baffling to why are not more carriers doing that already. So we learned why, and there is a lot of kind of very good reasons why it's more complicated than it seems. Mainly the complexity of the products and the distribution and the relationship and so on and so forth. But I think one of the other things is that in the last few years, the beginning few years of InsurTech were all about how do we build it from scratch and how we go direct to consumer and how we go the complete utter opposite of the traditional carrier approach. And I think we're now kind of balancing back into a point that is somewhere in between, where some things needs to be automated, some things still needs to be manual, face-to-face, relationship-driven. But in order to do it properly, you talked about a cyborg agent. I think that's where we're probably going to see most of the action in the upcoming years, where it's how do you get all of these tools and put it in the hands of the people that can actually do something with it. One of the challenges we kept having first years with carriers, and still is a big challenge for many of the carriers, is you get the insight. I know who is lapsing at a very high probability. What do I do with it? If I can't put it in the hands of the agent, if I can't put it in the hands of the call center, if I can't reach out to the customer directly, then then what? Then I just got more insight on something I can't do much about. So you talked about how you turn it into a product feature and how you make it a smarter journey with the customer or with the agent or with the contact center to make it more actionable and more relatable. And that's what brings both kind of the scale and profitability, because this is something that if you do at scale, an agent can own as many customers as they manage, but they still have 80-90% of their book that they're not engaging with. The commission is paid out. They don't know the people. They lost track. Who cares? But if you can make it easy for them, then you create a scalability because they are interested in taking action if there is something in it for them. And we just need to make the right mechanism for them to have something in it to be interested in this and participate in this with you.
So I think it's pretty easy as a carrier why you would focus on Inforce. First of all, we have amazing distribution partners that know how to sell. We don't really, I'll use the word need, it's a little strong. We don't need to get in the way of that, right? Whether it be our IMI channel or a third-party distribution channel, they know how to market and sell that initial sale. From a profitable perspective, though, what's most profitable to a carrier? The Inforce block. New business is the most expensive thing, and there's almost no profit in new business. What actually is valuable to a carrier, especially in life insurance, but also in annuity, is the Inforce block. And most of us, up until 4 or 5 years ago, just hoped that sleeping dogs would lie. Just leave it alone, don't call them, because then you'll remind them what they bought, and then they might actually lapse the policy or take the withdrawal. So we were kind of afraid of it, because we didn't understand it enough. Then we realized that it's important to maintain it, but it's also important to understand signals in your client's life, as Dror said, for the upsell. most people that bought an annuity earlier on in their life probably have had a trajectory in their career or income or investable assets that have gone up. And to your point, they go to another carrier because some other advisor called them and said, I want to sell you something versus their current advisor. So I just think from a profitability perspective as a carrier, that is our most valuable asset is the Inforce block. We were scared of it for a very long time, didn't know what to say when we got them on the phone. And then the new business, we've got 360,000+ agents out there that are really, really good at selling new business. So we didn't need to focus there. I think we do now. So I say we didn't need to. I think agents are actually asking for more value add than product, which is really cool. They're looking to carriers to do more than just provide a better percent, a better commission. They want more value add. How do you help me grow my business? What other values can you bring to my business? Can you teach me how to create scale? So that's where data's starting to play from an agent distribution perspective. So that's a lot more fun than just rate competition and, well, we're 5.5, 6. That gets old quick and it becomes unprofitable to carriers. So I like where the trajectory is going for the distribution channels as well, looking for more value added from the carriers who know a lot about this block of business that they contribute to as well.
I'll add to that I'm originally from Israel. In Israel, it's a, yeah. But in Israel, it's a very different insurance ecosystem. In Israel, it's because of the different regulation, because of the different structure, everybody knows how much they're paying for, on the policy from, how much they're paying, like what are the fees, what is the cost of insurance, and what was the returns last year. Everybody knows. And you even get a chart where like you should expect a number between this and that, and you're sitting here. And you come here and nobody knows anything. They rarely know who is the carrier where this policy is being managed. And I think talking about letting dogs lie, I think, in Israel, it's not like they buy less, they buy more. But because they know what they're getting, they know what they should expect from this. And then there is an active discussion on how why am I paying so much? Because I'm getting more returns than what I would get with other carriers and so on and so forth. And in some cases, people are actually paying more because they get better returns. And if you start creating this dynamic, I suspect people would pay more if they understand what they're getting versus getting re-informed about their policies and lapsing. And I think the other thing that Unique touched slightly on, but I think is also happening in the last few years, is there's a lot of private equity introduction to the market. I think the last stat I saw was that about 180 blocks are owned by private equities. They have a different perspective to how to manage the business than mutual companies. There is publicly traded companies, and there was a change in the accounting regulation that made lapse rate and surrender rate a little bit more important than it used to be. So all of these things now put a lot of spotlight on Inforce because the private equities bought it for the assets. And if the assets are living, then there's an issue. And they're planning to take an action, and they're going to be more vocal about this than maybe your typical mutual board that have a longer kind of horizon from this perspective. So I think all of that also creates this pressure on better understanding how to drive profits, how to drive the better economics on this block. That is kind of new to the market.